young Tristan Lee vibes. Thanks, bro. Well, technically, that's not a compliment. Although Tristan Lee is very popular, millions of followers, do we really want you to try and look like that? Coach Greg, in today's video, a kid, he needs our help. He's only 15 years of age. He went to Reddit, posted his physique, asked the question. Current physique, 5 months back in the gym, thoughts, advice, opinions. Remember, he's only 15 years of age. He's a young guy. He doesn't have a lot of knowledge, and so he's clearly asking for our help. And so I've examined his physique. The guy is shredded. He's so lean that people are writing in the comments, oh, a young Tristan Lee. He appears to be under 5% body fat. Front, back, top to bottom. Guy's absolutely shredded. 5'9", 140 pounds of muscle. And so some people may be thinking, yes, this is amazing. You've achieved it. You've done it. Look how amazing you looked. But others going to say, you need to eat. You need to eat more. You need to put on more body fat. And so just look at the photos. If somebody said that this guy was competing, that he was on stage, that this was the day of the show, I would say clearly probably the leanest guy in the show. And remember this, leaner does not make you better. There is no reason to try to be this lean. I don't care if you're trying to impress other people, to impress yourself, to look aesthetic, to attract a girl. Being this lean, it's not healthy. And so the first thing we have to think of in answering his question is we have to make sure that he is healthy. And right now at this level of body fat, he is not. He might pretend he is, he might say he is, you might think so, but he's not. And I'm not talking just physically healthy, I'm talking about mentally healthy as well. To think that you need to have sub 5% body fat and that's somehow a good thing, it's not. And if you doubt me, just ask Tristan Lee. Tristan Lee, for years as a teenager, suffered from being severely underweight. He only now came to realize these struggles, and I'm sure if he could go back in time, he would have eaten more. And so I'm not trying to downplay or to make fun of him here. I'm saying clearly he's put in the work. And considering he's only been at the gym here for 5 months after a layoff, and he doesn't follow any specific training program, the guy clearly has gifted genetics, not just for adding muscle, but also for getting shredded. Most people at 15 years of age that would be this lean at 5'9" probably weigh 120. And so one of the problems when you're this lean, I don't care who you are or how great your genetics are, if you're sub 5% body fat, your testosterone levels, they're going to go down. And so I'm sure if he were to get his blood work, got his testosterone levels checked, they wouldn't be optimal. And sure, some people could say, well, why don't you take G-test? Why don't you take HRT? That is not the answer. The solution here, it's not with supplements, it's not with adding in hormones. The solution is to eat more. If you eat more calories and your body fat percentage goes up, you're going to feel much better, you're going to have better workouts and put on a significant amount of muscle. This is the ideal physique for every teenager lifter now. Laugh my ass off. They never eat or lift heavy and think they're going to get huge. And so his response? I do compound lifts. Numbers have been going up. So I do lift heavy, or as heavy as I can. And so listen, you're telling him that all you're doing is under eating calories, that he's not putting on any muscle, that he's not getting any stronger, and that he has to eat more in order to get results. But his argument is, I am getting stronger. I am putting on muscle. And he's not wrong. And the person commenting is also not wrong. But here's the problem. He could be doing so much better. Yeah, of course he's getting better. When you're a newbie lifter, a teenager, you can do everything wrong. You can undereat, you can train the wrong way, and you're likely still going to make gains. But imagine how much better those gains could be if you're doing things the right way in the first place. Yeah, trying to look like David Lade, long way to go, LOL. And so there it is. That is the exact problem that's going on. People see other amazing superstars in social media and they're wanting to look like them. David Lade, millions of followers, has an amazing aesthetic and shredded physique of which millions of people want to look like. And so this kid at 15 years of age sees that physique and says, well, I want to look like that. Problem is, it's not healthy. 5% body fat, you need to eat more. But you compare yourself to David and perhaps you're at 10, 15% body fat, very healthy. But you're thinking, that's not lean enough. I've seen this guy, he's leaner, bigger than me. And so you start dieting, you start training, and before you know it, you have an unhealthy obsession with being shredded and trying to have single-digit body fat. Eat, dude. I do. And so we're not trying to be pedantic. We realize you're eating something, but the point is you're not eating enough. And so yes, you've gotten leaner, you're putting on muscle, you're not going backwards, but you shouldn't be cutting when you're already single-digit body fat. Now, if you were 20% body fat, had no abs whatsoever, and said, hey, I'm slowly trying to get leaner, nothing wrong with that. However, if you were, for example, 15% body fat, I would say main gain. Keep that same level of body fat and slowly put on muscle. But seeing as you're close to 5% body fat, this is someone who clearly needs to bulk. And yes, you can argue, should it be a lean bulk, a dirty bulk, what kind of bulk? But the point is, it should be a bulk. You should be trying to gain weight. You should be increasing calories. And by how much? Well, my suggestion being this lean, I would start with an extra 500 calories per day. That is a lot. And that's because we're trying to increase both body fat and muscle. Not all of those 500 calories are going to be used to build muscle, but many of them are. And some, it's going to increase your body fat. But when I'm coaching athletes who are underweight, they have too low body fat, both males and or females, the goal is to increase body fat. Well, why? Because by eating more, increasing body fat, you're going to have a proper hormonal balance. That's going to make your body much more conducive to adding on muscle, which is of course the goal. You're only 15 years of age. 15-year-olds should not be competing in bodybuilding competitions, trying to get shredded, trying to be leaner than grown adults. There's plenty of time for that in the future if you so desire. But for now, you should be at a healthy body weight, trying to put on muscle and enjoying life, not starving yourself. And what type of program are you doing in the gym? Do you do any other training? I run and jump rope, 4-day upper-lower split with a push day on Saturday added on usually. And so clearly this guy is doing both weights and cardio. He's running and skipping. That is, of course, going to make it more difficult to build muscle, but I'm not going to suggest he stops running. I think a 15-year-old can do both running and lifting weights and increase their ability to perform cardio and build muscle at the same time. I mean, it would be very hypocritical of me to say don't run when I literally, from the age of 13 on into my 20s, competed in triathlons. I was lifting weights, running, biking, swimming, training like an animal, most likely overtraining, but I was still able to put on muscle. And no, not as fast if I hadn't done cardio, but does that really matter? You're so young, why not have fun? When you get older, if you want to focus on bodybuilding, you could then reduce the amount of running you're doing. Guys like myself or Nick Bear who are doing a lot of running, it certainly slows down your muscle growth, but it doesn't mean you can't eventually focus on bodybuilding. Young Tristan Lee vibes. Thanks, bro. Well, technically, that's not a compliment. Although Tristan Lee is very popular, millions of followers, do we really want you to try and look like that? Being that lean, it wasn't healthy for him, both mentally and physically. Remember, the guy was struggling to sleep 4 or 5 hours a night. He was counting his steps, over 20,000 steps. He was obsessed with his physique. He even went carnivore. Guy didn't eat carbs. And so is that the life you want to live? He's 140. He has some muscle. Guys, y'all gotta chill, LOL. He's not a starving Holocaust survivor. And so we're not trying to put him down. We're not saying he has no muscle. We're not saying he's starving himself, but he is undereating. And we are responding to his question. Remember, he came to us saying, what can I do? How can I improve myself? And so the answer, the most simple, basic answer of all, eat more. How much? More than last time. It's simple. How hard should I train? Harder than last time. How much should I eat? More than yesterday. Just eat more and you will make improvements. And don't worry about how many more calories you're eating. You're not going to get fat in one day. I don't care how much you eat, 10,000 calories. You really think you're going to become obese overnight? Of course not. But I do understand when you're this obsessed with your physique, it does play with your mind. And so it can be very difficult to allow yourself to eat more. You'll be so much healthier, look better, feel better, everything. And so convince yourself it is okay for you to eat more. And if you're watching this and thinking this is amazing, looks perfect, he looks like Tristan Lee, he looks like he's going to be the next David Lade. Don't think that. Stop thinking that. It's not healthy. It's too lean. It's not good for you. Listen, I'm all about training, trying to look aesthetic, trying to feel good about yourself. But if it requires you to be unhealthy or to do unhealthy things in the process, then I'm not a fan. Have you been cutting for 5 months? You look insane, but I'd start eating more. If your weight doesn't start going up slowly, just eat more. That's great advice. His response? I've gained 8 to 10 pounds since November and leaned out while I did it a bit. And so think of it, in the last 5 months, the guy's actually put on about 10 pounds of muscle, maybe even more, while lowering his body fat. And so he's always shredded, this guy. So it's not some crazy cut that he got on. He said he got a little bit leaner. all the while adding all this muscle. And so certainly I hope he's natural. It's possible that he's not even natural. Look at the amount of muscle he has, his conditioning, while only 15 years of age. And so it is possible the guy's not natural. I'm not saying he is or isn't, but for many people, adding on 10 pounds of muscle while in a calorie deficit, that is hard. And so because he's only 15, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and assume that he's natural and that he put on all this muscle due to the fact that he has so many newbie gains left in the tank. But for most people, adding on 10 pounds of muscle while in a calorie deficit, while being this lean, next to impossible. Do not bulk. You have a functional body for sports and athletic movements. A lot of these guys couldn't play 5 minutes of pickup basketball. Just keep doing what you're doing. May try to increase your calorie intake slightly, but don't add a dirty bulk. Okay, I really want to address this. This is not what an athletic body looks like. For high performance athletes, I'm talking about Olympic athletes, the best athletes in the world. 8 to 12% body fat, that is an athlete. Not saying you can't be leaner, not saying you can't be higher, but for the most part, that is a high performance, well-trained athlete. Kids, 5%. That is not athletic. That is too lean. He would be more athletic, have more energy, feel better, function better by increasing his body fat. Think of it. He could go on a calorie surplus. Those extra calories could be used to give him more energy, train harder, make more muscle gains. Kid probably be 5'9", 150 pounds, 8% body fat in a matter of weeks. Even a slight calorie surplus is incredibly anabolic. The reason for that is if you're in a calorie deficit, it is going to be harder to put on muscle. Calorie surplus, a lot harder to build muscle. And so when you're 5% body fat and you're cutting or trying to maintain that weight or main gain at 5%, it doesn't make sense. It's going to be very difficult to put on muscle. I would argue you would put on more muscle by eating more than in fact taking performance enhancing drugs. When you're at 5% body fat, even with all the drugs in the world, if you're not fueling your body, how are you going to build that muscle? If you don't have the basic building blocks, for example, the nails, the wood, the cement, and so on, you could have all the workers in the world. You can't build up a house. Young Helmut Strobel, appreciate you. Again, I understand he's trying to give you a compliment, but it's not good. Helmut Strobel is considered to be one of, if not the leanest person of all time in the entire world ever. Remember, leaner does not make you better. Less is not more. You would in fact be much healthier and perform better with more body fat. And so we don't want you to look like Helmut Strobel. Dude, seriously, whatever you're eating now, double the portions. Didn't expect this on a Greg forum, LOL. Why wouldn't you? How many videos have I explained this? If you're shredded, 5% body fat, single digits, you need to eat more. If you're at a healthy body weight, 15% body fat, you main gain. And if you're overweight and or obese, a small deficit, you go down to what's healthy, perhaps 15% body fat, and then main gain. I don't understand why people don't get it. You have to eat more if you're too lean, get to where it's healthy, and then main gain from there. Every bodybuilder does it. Even Chris Bumstead drops down 4% body fat, off-season bulks up to perhaps 10% body fat, and then main gains till next year and repeats the cycle. They're bulking and cutting only because you can't put on a ton of muscle with your 4% body fat. And so they're really bulking, cutting. Not really. They're really increasing their body fat percentage until the point that they can main gain at. You don't see guys like Chris at 10 or 15% body fat thinking, oh, I need to go up to 25% now. That's how I really put on muscle. I'm going to take a couple years off, really get fat in the offseason, fat and sloppy. I'm going to gain so much weight, then I'm going to come back, I have 25 pounds more muscle. That is not what any of these guys do. And so if you're too lean, eat more. If you're too fat, eat less. And if you're where you should be, keep doing what you're doing. It's simple. And so what are his goals? I think I'd like to be 170 lean at 5'9". Forgetting the gear ideal physique, probably David Lade or something similar. 5'9", 170 pounds, considering he's only 15 and 140 at 5'9", guy could literally put on 20 pounds right now, all body fat, and still be considered lean. And so how long will this take? Couple years. Unless, of course, he thinks that he has to be 5% body fat to be considered lean. But remember, 10 to 12%, that is still very lean. And so hopefully he watches this video, eats more, puts on some body fat, makes the gains, and when he looks back in the future says, thank goodness I watched this video. And perhaps in 5 years he could diet down to 170 pounds and win classic physique. And so remember, although I have tons of supplements for sale, if you're only 15 years of age, you don't need to buy any of this. This is for older people. Save it for when you get older. You're going to make gains regardless. And so I don't suggest you go out and buy any of my supplements. don't go to my website. Don't click the link in the description unless you want a free training and program. It's free. You're not going to have to spend any money. And so if you want a free diet training program, over 50 pages, click the link in the description, enter your first and last name and your email address. It's going to go right to your door. If you're not a teenager, you're in your 20s, then of course, head over to my website, purchase the supplements, code Greg, 10% off. Subscribe, click the bell button, comment for the algorithm. Please like the video if you liked it. Liking the video, it helps so much. More people will come and watch this. Add a comment that boosts the algo. Don't forget to watch the bloops. And of course, the cookbooks, the training books, the coaching plans by me and my team, and the phone consults. Also, the clothing line, HGLT supplements and clothing. It's all on there. Follow me on Instagram, Greg Doucette, IFBB Pro. And until next time, I am out.